Hey, good day, and welcome back to another edition of Check the Map. I'm Tyler Bannister, joined by Nick Wages and Kirsten Crum of SRG Financial Advisors. Here we are about to end the second month of the year here in short order. It's late February 2026. There is no shortage of wild headlines happening, whether it's U.S. tariffs, potential conflicts in the Middle East, Mexican cartels lighting resort towns on fire. So your spring break plans might have been just altered a little bit. Also, the World Cup plans this summer may be altered. All that being said, a lot of wild things happening that don't necessarily instill confidence where we're at. But today we're going to actually talk about some really relevant topics that are more in our control and that are important to our lives and successful outcomes. So uh, real quick, touch base on where the markets are so far for this year. We've got year to date U.S. aggregate bond index up just a little bit over 1%. We've got gold and silver. It's been a little bit of a choppy ride for gold and silver, but they're actually both up a little over 18% still year to date. Not a straight line though. We've got the Dow Jones up just over 3%. S&P 500 almost up 1%, a little shy there. We have developed international markets up over 9%, emerging markets up almost 14 for the year. Russell 2000 small cap US stocks outpacing large cap this year. They're up a little over 7%. So definitely interesting year. Bitcoin, I'll throw that in there, down over 20% for the year. Gold is up again over 18%. So that whole gold equivalency, I'm not sure if that's relevant or not. But so interesting start to the year. There have definitely been some opportunities in the market, and I think there will continue to be, right? Despite the headlines and potential emotional volatility. Um, but that being said, it's tax season, right? So one of the things everybody's gathering their tax documents. Maybe you've already completed your tax returns. Maybe we've already completed your tax returns because Janice is amazing and one of the most efficient tax preparers in the history of tax preparing. So that's possible. But what I wanted to bring up is just the importance of forward-looking tax planning. So instead of right now everybody's looking backwards, if you're already working with us, you know this because we're proactively looking forward into 2026 and beyond for tax opportunities. But if you're not working with us in that capacity, or you have friends and loved ones that are talking about their tax return and how much they owed or how much they got back, and they don't even haven't considered 2026, 27, 28, we'd love to be a resource to them and help them look for potential tax planning opportunities in the midst of their overall plan. Because uh, one of the things, even from the big beautiful bill from last summer, is the extra standard deductions, which Nick, they go until what year?
2028.
2028. So we've got this year and two more years where we might have a chance to utilize these enhanced standard deductions and potentially look at things like Roth conversions. We talked about this before. Since income taxes were fully introduced, a little over 100 years ago, we're pretty much at the historical lows of income tax rates. Does it make sense? Are there opportunities this year, 2027, 2028? Now that we're thinking about taxes, it's a great time to do that. It's a great time to make sure that um, we're not giving too much money to the government. That's definitely one of our biggest expenses in life. Usually is taxes, unfortunately. And even a simple example, I started working with a new client in the last couple of weeks, and uh, they've just been withholding too much money every year so far in their work optional stage of life, and they didn't need to be. And so it was as simple as looking forward to this next year. Hey, do you want to keep withholding this much money and getting these refunds, or would you like to just keep that in your pocket every month? And they're like, you know what? I don't know why I haven't made that switch. No one's really ever mentioned that before. Well, okay, let's just adjust how much you're withholding and have that money on a monthly basis. So sometimes it can be a simple benefit, but oftentimes there's larger long-term impacts. So again, it's tax season, but let's make it tax season that's forward-looking and not just what happened in 2025 because there's opportunities. Now, I want to share something, an article that the great Dan Garrett shared with us here not too long ago. Um, and this is a CBS News article. It was you could find it from almost any news outlet, but this isn't necessarily a enthusiastic or encouraging headline, but it just highlights an opportunity. So it says the typical US worker has $955 saved for retirement. And this was a national survey that was put together from the National Institute of Retirement Security, along with US Census Bureau data. The median savings for all employed adults between the ages of 21 and 64 was $955, not per month, total retirement savings. So we could look at that and say, hey, that's really discouraging, which you could definitely make that argument. Or you can say, hey, this is a good wake up call and reminder of opportunities we need to take advantage of. Um, and sometimes this can overlap with legacy planning. So, Nick, do you want to touch on that a little bit as far as if clients are having a successful work optional stage of life and they're like, hey, I want to be able to benefit the future generations, that what this could turn into for them?
Yeah, I mean, having a coordinated income distribution plan where you're looking at all the available income sources available to you, things like Social Security, if you have a pension, and money that you've saved for yourself. One of the most meaningful avenues to try to leave a lasting and impactful legacy to the people that you love and care about is through your own retirement assets. And utilizing the sources like the fixed income sources that you have um, as like your primary legs of your bar stool here. The more supportive those legs are, the less you have to draw from your own retirement assets, which means the more that you have available to leave behind. If you build a great pension throughout your working years, and you have that available to you can have a survivor benefit on it, usually your spouse, but that's not something that goes beyond your spouse and your joint lifetimes. Same thing with Social Security. The when a spouse passes away, the lower of the two Social Security incomes goes away. So if you delay Social Security and use your own retirement assets trying to accumulate a higher Social Security benefit, well, the unfortunate thing is you usually deplete your own retirement assets by doing that. And then if you were to pass, or both of you passed maybe sooner than you were planning or anticipated, that higher benefit that you spent that time accumulating and spent your own retirement assets accumulating is not a legacy planning component. You don't get to leave that to kids or beneficiaries, whereas you do get to leave your own savings and retirement assets to them. So it's worth having a look at not only what you've saved and what kind of an impact time can have on making changes and adjustments today. It's never too late to start thinking about things like this. And that report, like Tyler said, really can be a wake-up call to, hey, maybe I should have a look at if I'm not where I want to be today, or if I think I'm maybe behind the needle a little bit when it comes to preparing for a work optional stage of life. Let's sit down and evaluate what kind of impactful changes I can start making today that will have a solid impact for me whenever I'm ready to enter into that stage of life, and know how Social Security and what other income sources I have will play into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and as you see here, like we talked about, most folks these days don't even have a pension. So, the onus is on yourself to make sure that you have those retirement assets and you have been putting into your 401k over time. And if anything, yeah, the wake up call to, if I don't have a pension and I don't have much set up in my retirement account, then, you know, need to start planning for that now, obviously.
yeah.
Right.
Like most companies don't offer pensions.
Yeah.
The few that still do, often the current pension plan for new hires is different from what it was 10, 20 years ago for long-standing employees. Maybe the benefits aren't quite as good. And we've had some conversations lately with a few people who their pension plan, they're being told that it's going away. They have to make a decision with whatever lump sum they're deemed to have inside of it. So they've been, and they're in their 60s, worked all these years and thought they were going to have a pension, and now it's not really going to be there in the form they thought. And then Social Security, by design, is supposed to be 30 to 40% of your income in your retirement work optional stage of life. And we know that by 2033, as of right now, the government would be able to pay 77% of promised benefits. So we don't know to what extent Social Security will be there. in the coming decades, especially for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, etc. So that, like Kirsten said, that leaves the onus mostly, if not entirely, on us to build up our own retirement savings. And we come back to that article where the average American between 21 and 64 years old is at $955. And and likely, if you're working with us at this point, if you're listening to this, you probably worked hard, you delayed gratification, you earned benefits, you saved money, and you're in a work optional stage of life, and we've put together a plan where it's reliable and sustainable. Um, but maybe this is a conversation you get to have with kids, grandkids, and just help them understand um, what's what will be required of them to get where they might want to be in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and what that looks like. And we're happy to have those conversations as well. If someone's important to you, they're important to us. So we'll make time to have that conversation with kids, grandkids, et cetera. Because it's going to be important to make sure that people are taking advantage of compounding interest and growth over time and that time in the market. Also, from a legacy planning standpoint, often we find clients the thought of for clients the thought of leaving a bunch of money when they pass away isn't the most exciting. And maybe if we have a proper plan in place now while you're living, maybe there's opportunities to help kids or grandkids fund some of these retirement accounts in the short term. So while they're younger and they have time to let that grow, and that impact by the time kids or grandkids get to their own retirement age could be quite substantial with growth potential over time. So um, again, that doom and gloom headline hopefully is more of a, hey, let's make sure that us, our friends, our family, our loved ones, we're doing the right things to put ourselves in a position for long-term success.
Yeah, and honestly, even like you mentioned with legacy planning and leaving money behind, that may or may not strike a chord with everyone. Another component to that I've found to have some popularity among the clients that I've talked to is having that living legacy, where you're, rather than trying to leave, all these various accounts and assets to beneficiaries, taking the time and those assets to enjoy, amazing memories. And it could be sending your grandkids to college. It could be taking the trips or the cruises or the family vacations and making meaningful memories on that front. There are a lot more ways to plan leaving a legacy than just how you're going to leave assets behind with what's left over. Obviously, we want to make sure you're taken care of. We want to make sure that all of your loved ones that you care about think of and remember you the way that you want to be remembered.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
assets aside, the component of, kids and grandkids, a lot of this stuff isn't taught at all. It's not even touched on, being a part of that wake up call, not only yourself, but to your kids and grandkids. We touched on even Social Security maybe going away here soon enough, especially for that generation. We take away a pension, we take away Social Security. It's just even that much more important that they get a head start on everything. And, even not even talking about assets, but just the fact that, hey, this is something that you need to be educated about and even realize that it's something coming that's going to be important for you to start taking action on.
Yeah, and Kirsten, I'll put you on the spot. You got your degree from which university?
Yeah, University of Kansas. For Mizzou fans out there, I'm so sorry. I was born in Columbia, is always my comeback.
Okay, and what was your degree?
Finance.
Finance. Okay. And then Nick and I both
Yeah.
graduated from the University of Missouri in Columbia with finance, banking, and real estate degrees. And I can tell you this, even and we all did very well in school. Um, the things we're talking about today and real life application of what real financial planning looks like at the household level, we didn't cover. It wasn't part of our degrees we graduated with honors with. So if you're looking at your successful kids and grandkids, there's a reason why we work with a lot of very successful small business owners, professionals, doctors, et cetera, because they've been successful in their field, but no one ever takes the time to teach any of us about these very pertinent, relevant household finance topics. So yeah, don't take that for granted. I would encourage you to have those conversations with your loved ones. We are here as a resource as well. They are free to reach out and have a conversation with us too, because it's very important
I
and
would say
time is of the essence.
yeah, and I would say honestly, we as a firm try to do our part to make up for that education shortfall. This slide that Tyler has up, this is from a class that we teach to employer plan participants, right? So we are meeting with employees of an organization that offers a 401k or some kind of retirement plan to their employees who really haven't been told, how much do I contribute? What do I invest it in? How do I save money to make sure my three legs of my bar stool are going to provide the level of income I need to enjoy that retired or work optional stage of life that I want to? Well, that onus is on financial professionals and people like us, because like Tyler just mentioned, we all three graduated with a degree in finance, and this level of practical, real life, personal financial planning was not necessarily talked about in great detail from any of the
No.
institutions that we went to. So
Setting the rivalry aside, we can agree on that. All right. So, hey, we're going to dive into
yeah.
something I think that might be one of the most important possible topics, though.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to pull up one more slide from this class that we teach currently. Um, Biggest expenses during retirement. Now, this is where we start talking about the importance of tax planning. I alluded to that earlier, right? Forward-looking tax planning, which there's a lot of opportunities. We're here for that as well. But I bring this up to say, um, healthcare and food. That's what I want to talk about. Your personal health, food, etc. And uh, the reason for that is you hear stories about people who worked all their life and they retire and they pass away within a year or two of retirement, or you um, the stories of just chronic disease and just exorbitant expenses, or most importantly, just the inability to enjoy life. Right? You delayed gratification. You spend all this time going to work to get to these quote unquote golden years, and then you might not be able to enjoy it at all. So I'm going to hand this over to Nick, because this is real life planning, but also has very direct financial implications as well.
Yeah. And honestly, one thing that I consider is to like truly look at a comprehensive planning process. We talk about our pillars often in financial planning. In fact, let me bring those up. But our first engagement with clients is usually, us we get an opportunity to learn about our clients, what's important to them, who they love, what they care about, what their lifestyle looks like now, and what kind of goals they have. We also like to share who we are and what we do. And part of that is explaining how we take a comprehensive approach to financial planning. Um, let's see if I can get my screen pulled up here. So if you've worked with us, you've heard us talk about these. These are our pillars to our financial planning process. To truly evaluate this, a comprehensive planning process should include investing in physical and mental wellness being equally as important to investing in retirement assets or planning for retirement. Those are things that really have to be looked at in the same light. That the investing in physical and mental wellness really needs to be looked at with the same importance and significance as investing in retirement assets, and probably even more. If we think about this risk management pillar, Tyler brought up big expenses in retirement being taxes, healthcare costs. Well, let me just paint a picture for you that if we have a client we're working with who's been fortunate enough to save multiple millions of dollars, they can do whatever they want in retirement. Their assets would provide them the opportunity to travel, take family trips, do anything lasting and meaningful and impactful for them. And those are the things that they want to enjoy doing. Well, if you're battling health challenges and chronic conditions, like unfortunately too many of our seniors in America are, then your ability to use the assets that you've accumulated, the gratification that you have delayed to enjoy at a later time, you may not even be able to enjoy it the way that you want to. The NIH had a study from last year that showed that 78.8% of Americans that are 65 and older indicated that they battle multiple chronic conditions and at this particular age. And that can include heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. There's a myriad of things that can include. But being able to truly live out a work optional lifestyle of significance and meaning that's going to be impactful for you, and give you that sense of purpose every day, has got to include, when we look at planning for retirement, we've got to look at planning for being physically and emotionally and spiritually fit and well at that time of our lives as well. And we talk a lot in our process too about doing what we actually have control over, right? There's a lot of things out in that big wide world that we don't have any control over. Unfortunately, what we do have control over is how we treat ourselves and care for our minds and our bodies to try to prevent some of those chronic conditions that are almost viewed as like a rite of passage here in America, right? Once we get to a certain age, it's like we got to be on blood pressure medication, and we have significant health challenges that come up at different age bands in our society. And the unfortunate part is that a lot of those things are preventable through sustained measures of discipline and taking care of yourself mentally and spiritually and physically over time. Like, we spend as a nation almost $4 trillion a year on healthcare research, and almost none of that money is spent on preventing illness or chronic conditions. It's almost all exclusively spent on treating those illnesses or conditions as they come up. So we're here to tell you, one of the things that we like to emphasize and kind of lean into is that comprehensive planning for a work optional stage of life, to truly enjoy that as much as you possibly can, has to include, on this risk management pillar, taking care of your own health and wellness and well-being so that you're able to truly enjoy that stage of life, and doing things that we truly believe can help you prevent falling victim to a lot of those chronic conditions that over 3/4 of our population say that they struggle with during retirement.
Yeah, 100%. And the just a couple of examples too. Like, even if you're thinking through budgeting during your working years or early work optional stage of life, right? Eh, Does it, even if you put math to this? So I had a professor in college in our real estate department. He's passed away since, but he would do this thing, and I don't know if this applies as much anymore, but he would calculate a rate of return on an MBA, a master's in business administration. And he would lay it out in numerical terms. Like, if you invest this money in the MBA, you're likely to get this return on your investment with how much money you'll make in your future jobs because you have a better degree. And again, we could argue about our university education system. Does that still hold true, over 2 decades later? But if you take that same kind of approach and put the a numerical value to maybe spending slightly more to get non-processed real food and just eat cleaner in your younger years, how much could that actually save? Like, helping your body work better and not have as many chronic issues. How much, even just ignoring the fact that you're going to enjoy life better because you're healthier, how much money will you actually save without having to buy all these medications, right? Because a lot of our healthcare system is, you need a medication for this, and now you need one for this, and but maybe it is a good financial decision to spend a little more to have healthy food now and make those decisions. Also, um, it's never you're never too young, you're never too old, you're never too out of shape to find a way to move your body and exercise and just stay active. Like, as humanity, we're not meant to just sit and be sedentary all the time. Like, we're supposed to be moving and working and using our bodies. Really cool story. Like, here locally, I had a client I started working with last fall, and just asking her in our first meeting, like, um, what kind of goals do you have? What are you hoping to accomplish? And this lady is already in her 70s. She goes, I want to get strong. I'm like, oh, tell me about that. She goes, I want to actually, like, lift weights. I've never done anything like that. I want to lift weights and I want to get strong. And the cool thing is, there's 2 or 3 gyms. I live in Columbia, Missouri, that they have specific programs for people over 50 or over 60, where it's like very tailored, just really good programs to help people learn to lift and exercise. And so I gave her that list, and she called me a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm actually going to this gym now. I've already had 3 different sessions. I'm super sore, but I'm out there lifting weights." And
That's
but it's
awesome.
just right. And just I'm like, "How do you feel after you lift?" She goes, "I feel amazing. Just the endorphins, and just she feels so much healthier already." Um, and these again, sometimes we have meetings with clients, and it might seem, if you were watching from the outside, like we're not talking about financial things. These have huge financial implications,
Yeah.
and it compounds over time, right? If you're staying healthy and you're not needing to pay for assisted living or a nursing home, that's like, a decent one in the Midwest, maybe it's 12 grand a month or
Mhm.
more. If you can stave those off by doing things that's going to help you enjoy life in the interim more and be
Yeah.
healthier, it's absolutely worth it. So,
Right.
um,
Right. Yeah. And, really that a lot of focus is on longevity and lifespan. People often think of, how old you're going to live versus your health span, which is the period of your life which when you're generally in good health. And so, like a lot of the clients I've met with, I'll illustrate an ideal game plan for them and say, hey, let's assume you live to 100. And most people chuckle at that. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to live to 100," because they think I get older, I don't feel well, you know. Well, what's interesting is that among centenarians, people who have lived to 100 or older, the shared traits that nearly all of them have are balanced diet, physical activity, strong social connections, and a sense of meaning and purpose. We talk all the time, really like day one of our planning process with clients, visualize what's going to bring you meaning and purpose and satisfaction in retirement, right? So that's something that you have control over is what am I going to enjoy doing whenever I can call work optional? Other things that you have the ability to do or control are how you move your body. Not that everybody wants to live to 100, because I can understand and appreciate that that's not everybody's goal. But when you think through, okay, if I do live longer than I'm anticipating, or I have good health span and I have longer time doing what I can control, we can't control accidents and fast death instances. Like those are things that are outside of our control. What we can control is how we live and enjoy today, mindful of the future. And if we do so in a way that reduces the amount of money that we spend on healthcare costs, long-term care expenses, etc., and legacy planning is important to you, whether it's money you want to spend during your lifetime or leave behind to your kids after you're gone, there's going to be a lot more impactful and robust ways to plan a legacy the less money that you spend on healthcare costs and long-term care expenses.
yeah, I think those are good reminders. Especially, you can't control the news cycle or headlines or things happen in the world, but you can do these things in your own life to make a positive impact. So, but speaking of the news cycle, Kirsten, what do we have on the
Yep.
calendar for the
Yep.
next
Let's
couple weeks, assuming the
take a
government's
look.
open fully?
Right. All right. Let me see this over here. Okay. So, let's see. Today we're sitting on the very end of February. I can't believe the beginning of the year is just flying by. It
Yeah.
just happened so quick. So yeah, of course, if the government is open, things coming up tomorrow, we're going to get a new consumer confidence report, seeing how the consumer sees things. I know the last time we spoke, it was kind of interesting. Data was saying one thing, however, consumer confidence was saying another. And that's just how things are hitting at the household level. New home sales coming on Wednesday. Of course, we're going to continue monitoring this because, as we know, shelter has continued to be a problem as well as where we are for home. Durable goods, as well as weekly jobless claims that we get at the end of the week, followed with our producers price index on Friday. I know we'll also get into a little bit of March before the next time that we talk. Good to see that manufacturing index, what we're manufacturing, construction spending, as well as that ADP employment. That's that private report that we still will get regardless of where the government stands on everything. And then really towards the end of the week, we get jobless claims and another employment report coming to us before the next time that we speak. One thing to note, I know that's kind of been the theme today is headlines are always going to be out there. You know, whatever you want it to say, you can search it up and it'll say it. But when it comes down to planning and actually at a household level, some of these things, not that they don't matter, but we get so ahead of ourselves that whatever this report says is going to affect me personally tomorrow. A lot of times that's not quite the case. So I'm just kind of mindful of all of that as we continue to monitor all these headlines and all the new data and reports coming up that, you know, kind of at your own household level, being responsible for planning ahead rather than trying to expect what the latest and greatest headline is going to say.
Yeah.
Well said. And on that
Yeah.
note, if we can be a resource to you, feel free to reach us through our website, srgfinancialadvisors.com. You can schedule meetings through the website as well, or you can call us at 573-302-7212. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.